Green Mountain was founded on a vision and a mission of setting the green standard in the data center industry. If you look at the data center industry in general, we have had massive growth of data. At the same time, we don't consume anything more of power now than what we did 15 years ago. So there's been a massive efficiency through that period in regards to how we're delivering that data back to the market. For instance, Green Mountain, we now have what we call an average power usage efficiency, or PUE, of about 1.17 across our data centers. The lower the number that is, the better. So you can never go below 1. The EU average today is around 1.6, 1.7. That means that we deliver 50% more energy efficient data center than the average data center in Europe at the moment. We have that ambition to continue to drive efficiency, continue to set the standard, continue to push the needle of what is possible to do. So with our initial data center in Norway, in Stavanger, we probably built one of the most energy efficient data centers out there. For instance, we use the fjord outside to cool the data center on the inside. So we use about 3 kilowatts of power to get the equivalent of 1,000 kilowatts of cooling. It's a super efficient data center built inside a mountain, so it doesn't have the shifting seasons either.
Would you say that a large part of the efficiency that you achieve in your data centers is because you learn to be in harmony with your surroundings?
I think we have good natural conditions to be able to deliver efficient data centers in Norway. It's not just that we have it inside a mountain, it's also that Norway is wet and cold. We also have a lot of water, so there's a lot of hydro. 96.5% of all power in Norway is fully renewables. 3% is wind and a little bit of everything else. So all onshore power generation in Norway is truly renewables. We have to fight very hard to not make it a sustainable data center. But we still continue to push the needle. We try to optimize our delivery constantly, and then we take the learnings from what we've done in one data center as we continue to venture outside Norway as well. It's about finding the best opportunity in that given territory. And although we've done a lot in the data center industry in general, we also need to be able to learn from other industries. So in Norway, for instance, the first data center we built was located in Stavanger, which is a traditional oil and gas hub. Norway is an oil producing country, but we could learn a lot from what they've been doing in regards to automation, or how we optimize the deliveries. And that has continued to kind of reduce or improve our energy efficiency.
You mentioned water, but for example, in Africa, water might not be a feasible option. Are there other kind of technologies that are really leading the way in the industry?
There's no problem of doing the same cooling technology in a warm country as long as you have access to water. The data center that we're now building in Mainz, which is in Frankfurt, we're also leveraging the water of the Rhine to cool the data center. We've been a challenger in the industry. We have learned to think differently. I think it's about looking at all the other things around you and see how can you kind of create a synergy of different things. So it's not just cooling, it's also we produce a lot of heat in a data center. What do we do with that excess heat? In Norway, we have connected our data center to an onshore lobster fish farm. So we're using that directly, or to an onshore trout fish farm. So the ability to kind of find what are the industries that we can establish together with the data center that can leverage that heat directly. You can use the excess heat from the data center for the plant. So that means the data center still uses the same energy, but you reduce the energy use for that greenhouse or vertical farming. I think it's about finding the right options to create an ecosystem around the data center, because it's both a benefit and a waste that comes out from the data center.
You mentioned Frankfurt. Even though you have the energy crisis happening, it's still an interesting market for you to go into.
There's a constant need for new data centers also in well-established environments like Frankfurt. You need to be able to challenge what's happening in Frankfurt. And I know one of the things that we also talk a lot to the market about is, do all the data that resides in Frankfurt or London or Paris, do they need to be there? Can you move then the data to locations where there are better surroundings for that, where there's better natural conditions, where water is not a restricting factor either? But the reason why we are going to Frankfurt, and whenever we do site selection, is just like you're saying, is that we need to find the right projects which is setting the green standard continuously. So the site that we are building in Frankfurt is related to creating that circular approach. So in mines, we're going to use the Rhine as a cooling source. We're not going to use the generators. We're going to use gas as backup. So we're taking away 95% of the carbon footprint of that solution. We are connected to the district heating system, so it becomes a truly circular approach. When we're setting the green standard, we need to make sure that we do that in all the locations that we're doing. Some locations are going to be hard, like there are countries in Europe where we're probably not going to put a data center because there is no renewables, there is very little opportunity to do something. So others might build there, but we are not.
Would you say that if you don't see a sustainability angle in a way to be a leader in that area, you would not consider it?
I'm not going to say a definitive, but it needs to be a trajectory to be able to leverage the setting the standard in that territory. For instance, it doesn't have to be renewables there today necessarily, but it needs to be a road to renewables within, 2, 3, 4 years down the road. We want to be truly carbon neutral, and without renewables, that is just not possible. We're not going to buy ourselves green like a lot of other companies are doing. Of course, we still need to have the certificates of origin on the power, but it's about finding those right opportunities. I think we need to look at creating new triangles for the hyperscalers that are attractive and where there are scale opportunities, which is limited today in some territories.
Thank you so much for your time today and sharing your thoughts on sustainability.
Thank you very much for having me.